Well, you guys, Rachel Maddow believes that Trump, if he's elected, is going to start rounding up people on the left and putting them in concentration camps. And I'm tired. I am just so unbelievably tired of the everything is and everyone can be related to Hitler and the Nazis and camps. Can we stop that? Plus, we've got our resident senior, Joe Biden, and he wants you guys to know that your guns are not going to stand a chance in keeping you and your family safe from the government. He says you're going to need fighter jets if it comes down to it. That makes me feel good. But first, what is going on in Black America? Between Amber Rose throwing her support behind Donald Trump and Joe Mazzulla taking a stand for Christians, us Black people are seeming a little uppity lately. Am I right? Let's check in and see what's going on. All that coming up on Candace. All right, so you guys know that I live chat the show. Yes, that is actually me live chatting on YouTube. And yesterday, somebody asked me if I believed in the hip hop to prison pipeline. You know, the idea that hip hop music is inspiring Black youth and in all the wrong ways, and then they're ending up in prison. And I answered back very briefly, I actually believe in the prison to hip hop pipeline. Now, the reason for that is because there is absolutely no question in my mind that the CIA is and has always been running Hollywood. And that book that I showed you yesterday, Chaos, just further substantiated that point for me, especially given that the Manson murders, which took place in 1969, intimately involved and were inspired by the CIA, if you believe anything that you read in that book. What I learned in that book is that Charles Manson was a person who spent the majority of his life in federal prison. And at some point while he was in federal prison, the government turned him into an asset. They then released him, kept him safe as he repeatedly violated the terms of his probation, and they provided him with what seems like an endless supply of LSD and taught him how to brainwash people. And boy, did that work. To be clear, his cult was a hippie commune that was known as the Family, were regularly dosed with LSD and other drugs until they obeyed his every order. Thinking about that, they just sort of reset their minds. So much so that on the first day of the Manson trial, Manson carved an X onto his forehead. So when he showed up for the trial, the wound was still fresh and it was bleeding. And on the very next day, 3 of his female cult followers who were similarly being tried for murder showed up with the same X carved onto their foreheads. And they also shaved their heads like he shaved his head. And these young women were holding hands and they were skipping throughout the courthouse, singing nursery rhymes that Charles Manson had written for them. Manson himself testified, quote, "When you take LSD enough times, you reach a stage of no thought." Psychiatrists similarly testified throughout that trial that the human mind, you can program it. And you can create a school for crime. You can instill philosophies inside of the human mind. And of course, that became known as a project known as MK Ultra, a CIA becoming obsessed with controlling our minds. Now let's cut to the Diddy lawsuit of today. Now, we shouldn't forget that before there ever was a Diddy lawsuit, or at least maybe before that lawsuit was even being prepared, Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, notoriously accused Diddy of being a Fed. And I want to show you that clip. Pardon all of the beeps. There are a lot of cuss words in it. Take a listen.
But as far as Meek Mills, Puff Daddy, whoever, none of these, all you fake hard you. Hold on. Okay. All you fake hard you. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a because you can't shoot nobody anyway. And the reason why you got to talk is because you did a deal, you Fed. You know what I'm saying? That's why you got to come at me, because part of the deal for you to be able to do all that and get out of jail is that you promise that you're going to go pull my coat car. So y'all shut the up about me. Now let me say it calm. You shut the up about Michael.
So let me slow down there what he's saying so you can understand it. He is alleging that Diddy is a Fed. And the reason why Diddy, or how he became a Fed, was that at some point he was in prison and he did a deal in which, in order for him to be let out, he had to pull the coattails of other artists, help them control other artists within Hollywood. And of course, at that time, when Ye was speaking, that was when all the fire was going on in 2022. He was being labeled an anti-Semite. He was being canceled. Adidas dropped him. Gap dropped him. People didn't actually think about what he was saying there. It was just dismissed until, of course, Cassie began speaking out. That's Diddy's former girlfriend. And it sounded like Diddy was involved in a lot of darkness. And then you had suddenly this producer dropping a lawsuit and saying, yeah, people at the LAPD clean up for Diddy when he allegedly is murdering people. It's just he's allowed to do these sorts of things. Here is my conclusion after having read that book and just paying attention to what is happening, and my very, very real belief that Hollywood is completely being used as a form of psychological entrapment, as a form of mass psychological brainwashing. I believe the media is a form of black magic, that people actually sat down, experts, and they experimented to see how people would react to certain things, right? That they can create a celebrity virtually overnight, make people want to be like that celebrity, that they can induce people to love someone instantly or to hate somebody instantly. I'm someone that they induce people to hate immediately before they ever even heard what I had to say. They understand that headlines works, that if you say something enough times, people will believe it to be true. If you ask the majority of people right now about Michael Jackson in America, they probably still believe that he's a pedophile, even though he beat all the charges. And if you watch some documentaries, you will begin to ask yourself some serious questions about why they began attacking Michael Jackson at the moment that he was fighting to take down Sony, and why the people that he was fighting suddenly inherited his entire estate. So a lot of questions we should be asking ourselves. Have we all fallen victim to black magic? Absolutely. I've long suspected and have said publicly that the music that I'm hearing today that is being described as black culture, black music, it's not black music. I grew up listening to my granddad's music. This is not what the Temptations were singing about. In the 60s, they were singing about love and families being together. Now, all of a sudden, the music is so dark, it is so demonic, that it has led me to believe that Hollywood is, in fact, being controlled by some sort of a demonic cult with an intention to corrupt our souls. And in particular, there definitely seems to be some sort of a deranged focus on black people, giving us the worst filth. It's all filth, but it's almost like the worst filth that you can corrupt a soul with is reserved for black people. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because we are particularly ornery. One way or the other, we do seem to be quite stubborn. If we stumble upon something, we believe it to be true, we dig our heels in. Me, obviously, rather notoriously now, I dig my heels in. And I'm not the only one. Joe Mazzulla, I don't know if you've been following him. If you're not a sports person, he is the coach of the Celtics. Very young, by the way. He's 35 years young. And he does not seem to be bucking to media black magic. Take a listen to what he said when reporters tried to race bait him.
Hey, Joe, Vince Goodwill, Yahoo Sports. For the first time since 1975, this is the NBA Finals where you have two black head coaches. Given the plight sometimes of black head coaches in the NBA, do you think this is a significant moment? Do you take pride in this? How do you view this, or do you not see it at all?
I wonder how many of those have been Christian coaches.
Oof. I enjoyed the silence there. Whoa, we didn't expect you to just throw some Christian topic at us right there. I don't know how many of them have been Christian. What's he really saying there? He's saying that he understands that we are fighting something that is dark, that it is something that is impacting people's spirits. And so therefore the solution, of course, is going to be something that is holy, that can impact the spirit. By the way, that's not the first time that he's done that. Take a listen to what he said when asked about the royal family.
Did you get a chance to meet with the royal family? And if not, how was it like having them there in the building?
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph?
The Prince and Princess of Wales.
Oh, no, I did not. I'm only familiar with one royal family. I don't know too much about that one. Thank you.
I just love the silence. They don't even know how to respond to it. They're like, what in the uppity Christian is this? They've never heard it. They've never heard somebody throw that at them in a press conference, probably ever. We love to see it. And not only that, Amber Rose, who I have had a lot of things to say about in the past, you know, she was one of the people that heavily marketed the quote unquote slut walk many years ago. I think it was back in 2018. Well, she's coming around the bend too. She's mixed race, to be clear. And she's come out and endorsed Donald Trump. And of course, the demonic media has hunted her down, followed her, and said, how could you? How could you do that, Amber Rose? You are a woman. Here's what Amber Rose has to say.
A lot of people were shocked with your, endorsement of Donald Trump. I mean, you're all about women's rights issues. I mean, what was the reason for the big change?
Is Donald Trump not for women's rights issues?
I mean, I guess a lot of people were
He's
asking.
trying to make America great again. That's for women too, right?
That's true. I mean,
okay, so there you go.
A lot of celebrities are kind of like voting for Trump now. I mean, why do you think people are kind of like changing their way of like?
I think we just did our research and we're just, we're not brainwashed anymore by the left. I can say that about myself. All these years I've been brainwashed and I'm not anymore.
Do you think Donald Trump would approve of the slut walk?
That's no longer. I haven't did the slut walk since 2018. So I think that I could do something better for women than a slut walk.
Okay.
Although I was very passionate about the slut walk,
I loved it.
Donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to helping women get counseling for domestic violence and sexual assault and rape, and I'm still that person. I just don't think I need a slut walk for that.
Whoop, whoop. I am loving this. And you can see the little bit of media black magic where she says something that makes perfect sense. I'm no longer brainwashed, particularly brainwashed. Again, when you read that book, Chaos, you're going to understand the obsession that the government had with being able to brainwash the masses. So when they hear her say she's no longer brainwashed, they then try to give her like a trigger word. They're like, oh, well, what about the slut walk? You're a woman. Remember you did that thing when we were mass brainwashing women to rinse themselves of their own value, their own inherent value by behaving in a way that disrespects themselves. Yeah, Amber Rose wasn't falling for that either. She said, yeah, I moved on. I moved on from that. And I think that there's more that I have to offer. In conclusion, guys, what I want to say is I think it's time for all of us to wake up from the mass brainwashing. It's time for all of us to wake up from the mass psychosis and to play our role and to not allow them to shame us by reminding us of who we were when we were operating under their system. This means Black people and white people, we have to stop warring with each other, okay? It's not about Black versus white. And I hope Amber Rose goes a little further and realizes that it's also not about left versus right. It is angels versus demons, darkness versus light. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic. All right, guys, now it's time to get into some stories. But before we get into those stories, you know what I'm going to say? Subscribe to us on YouTube, also Spotify, Apple, wherever it is that you listen. We are back on the race here on YouTube to 2 million subscribers before we discontinue this particular Candace Cup. I'm so excited, you guys. Let's jump right into some stories. Is everybody feeling like that? Are we tired of the Adolf Hitler comparisons? Why is this the only historical reference that it seems that anyone has? They talk about like a mass psychosis. So much has happened throughout human history. Awful things have happened throughout human history. More awful, even things that were literally, if you're just talking about the metrics in terms of the death, things that were more awful than World War II. And yet, for whatever reason, we just keep going back to Adolf Hitler references. And of course, whenever Trump is getting close to the White House, they really put on, the left really puts on. Rachel Maddow recently gave an interview, she sat down with Oliver Darcy of CNN, and they were talking about, just the trepidation that they have. God forbid Donald Trump is elected again. The first time when they ran this little gambit and they said, no, guys, really don't vote for him. If you vote for him, Black people, you'll be back in chains. And everybody else, he's literally Hitler. Maybe some people fell for it, but I think now there is just a collective exhaustion. And here is what Rachel Maddow told Darcy. So first, Darcy asked her, Trump and his allies are openly talking about weaponizing the government to seek revenge against critics in media and politics, with some of his extremist allies even talking about jailing their fellow Americans. You're one of his most notable critics on television. Are you worried that you could be a target? Such a brave question, Oliver Darcy. Maddow responds, I'm worried about the country broadly if we put someone in power who is openly avowing that he plans to build camps to hold millions of people and to, quote unquote, root out what he's described in subhuman terms as his enemy from within. Again, history is helpful here. He's not joking when he says this stuff, and we've seen what happens when people take power proclaiming that kind of agenda. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, she's intentionally alluding to Hitler. Oh, he's using terms, the enemy from within, subhuman terms. She's wanting all of us to go back into the trauma of learning about the Holocaust, of learning about Adolf Hitler, so that she can inspire us to an uprising against Donald Trump with absolutely no evidence. He's been president for 4 years. He was president of the United States 4 years. Absolutely no evidence that he has ever done anything that could liken him to Adolf Hitler, but she's going to try this anyway because it's all about emotional conditioning. This really is a study in what the media does. They always use the concepts that you don't realize were instilled in you as something to make you feel triggered at the moment that you hear it. And they do this in order to inspire you to behave in a way that they want you to behave. And in this particular manner, they want you to stand up against Donald Trump, some perceived dictator in their own minds. And I guess they want you to just not pay attention to everything that's been going on, which is the exact opposite. Obviously, Biden's DOJ, obviously, New York City, the Department of Justice in New York City, everything that they have done to Donald Trump actually is reminiscent of a government that has taken too much power for itself, is reminiscent of a government in which they are going after their enemies, not on the basis of crimes that those enemies have actually committed, but rather on the basis of the fact that they present a challenge to the power which has been established by the state. He is a challenge to the deep state. They feel that they cannot control him, and so they want to take him out. So good on you, Rachel Maddow, for doing this, for boring me out of my mind. I promise you, if I hear someone else say Hitler, anti-Semitism, I'm going to go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep because this is a podcast. I want to stay awake so that I can continue to produce this podcast daily, Monday through Friday. And I want to also be clear, Rachel Maddow, if there's anything that people should actually be fearing, it's today's economic climate, which is why I want to talk to you guys about American financing. Many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses, and high credit card interest rates, they trap us in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means that it could take you years to become debt-free. You don't want to do that. So reach out to American Financing, a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. If you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers save $854 per month, which is equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. The process is extremely straightforward and it's quick. You could close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. It costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant for you to ignore. So please call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210, or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. They are an amazing American company. And speaking of America, well, it is allegedly being led by Joe Biden. Definitely not. He is slurring, sleeping, doing all sorts of things, pooping at various times, and we don't know what to do. But I will tell you, he had a moment of clarity and a moment of honesty. So Biden was giving a mumble. Some people call these speeches, but I think we know that these are, in fact, mumbles. He was delivering the headline mumble at Everytown for Gun Safety's annual training conference, Gun Sense University, that was in Washington, D.C. And what the group does is that they bring together these volunteers and survivors of gun violence from across the country to share the best practices, participate in training sessions about effective organizing, and prepare for the crucial work ahead. And I'm going to guess that if Biden was there, the crucial work ahead is that they want to convince Americans to give up their guns. And so he made a compelling argument for exactly why you should give up your guns. And this is what he said, guys. I'm just going to let the clip play. Take a listen.
By the way, if they want to think to take on government, if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle.
I'm sorry, what? Did the president just say what I think he said? Is he like, ha ha, your guns aren't going to be any good if you think you're going to take on the government? People actually laugh at that in the audience? Were they all members of the government? Did they laugh at the idea that you're going to need instead an F-15, a fighter jet, if you think you're going to take us on? I'm sorry, were we just talking about Rachel Maddow concerned about Trump becoming a dictator? Because that seems pretty scary. Actually, I got to give him credit, though. He's incredibly honest there. He's basically saying our guns are bigger than yours. And if you get out of line, Americans, I don't know, what do fighter jets do? Is he implying that they would just bomb us all out of oblivion if we didn't comply with them? I think he could be. And I, again, think it's strange that people are laughing. But I appreciate the honesty. This is what I actually appreciate about the fact that he's kind of going in and out of his dementia at times, because you do get these moments where he's just being really honest. And he's honestly telling you that as the government, we will just up the violence if you don't listen to us. Unless you've got F-15s and fighter jets, your guns are going to do you no good. So why don't you just hand in your guns? Well, buddy, because of that sentence you just said, this is exactly why we will never hand in our guns. Because we understand just as well as you understand in this Freudian slip that the government is in fact a threat to our lives. The government is in fact a threat because it continues to grow, and really weed its way into every layer of our lives, telling us what medicines we have to take, right? Trying to mandate vaccines as they attempted to do, which means that we no longer have bodily autonomy. So yes, Americans, I hope you appreciate the reason why it is important for you to think about how you are going to protect your family all the time. My husband and I, we actually have an apocalyptic mindset. Mine used to not be that bad, but then my husband made it even worse. And so we're constantly like playing survivor. How can we live off the land? That's why I told you guys notoriously that I learned to grow vegetables, because my husband already knows how to shoot and knows how to hunt. And then that's why I learned how to go hunt. And it is also the reason, you guys, that we have an emergency supply of food and of water. Do you? Because you need to have one. We all know that we need to have 3 to 6 months of cash on hand, but what about food and water? If you don't, then you need to know about ReadyPantry. ReadyPantry offers 25-year shelf-stable food and drinking water that will last for 50 years. These products taste amazing, and they include meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even come with a dessert. Not to mention the peace of mind you get knowing that you have an emergency supply of food and water ready for anything, including, an F-15 above your head, because Joe Biden's going to come get you. It's also good for power outages, hurricanes, other weather, national disasters. It's becoming more and more common, of course. A grid collapse, think about that. We saw this in Texas and in Ohio. Any sorts of attacks, rolling blackouts, war, supply chain, the list goes on and on and on in terms of the day-by-day threats that you could be facing as a family. So it is important that you are ready with ReadyPantry. And of course, you won't be surprised, they are an American-based company. All of the products are sourced here in America with real ingredients, packed with sufficient calories and nutrition for everyone in the family. Meals taste great, and they include meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and as I said, even a snack and dessert. So stock your pantry now with buy now, pay later options available at checkout at readypantry.com/Candace. ReadyPantry offers discounts for 3 months, 6 months, and a 1-year supply up to 20% off. Go to readypantry.com/Candace and use the code Candace, just my first name, and you will save an additional 10% off your order. Plus, you'll get free shipping on all orders. Now, a lot of people have been asking for me to weigh in on culture, as I normally do. I do follow culture. I love culture because it is something that you must pay attention to because it's impacting the youth. People wanted me to weigh in particularly on J-Lo and Ben, rumored to be divorcing. Now, I have a lot to say about this. Actually, I don't have that much to say about it, but J-Lo has been married a lot of times. She has been married 4 times, to be specific. Her most recent marriage with Ben Affleck is her 4th, but she was previously married to a man named Ojani from 1997 to 1998. Then she was married to Chris Judd from 2001 to 2023. So again, you're seeing that's a 1-year marriage followed by a 2-year marriage. And then she was married to Mark Anthony. I think that's probably her most notorious marriage, with whom she shares twins Max and Emmy. And that was her longest stretch, by the way. That was 10 years. And so people were very happy for her and excited to see her, despite having recently a broken engagement with Alex Rodriguez, to jump into a marriage with Ben Affleck because they were once engaged too, and then that engagement fell apart. And I guess people needed to see the Hollywood movie end with happiness. And they were like, yes. And now it appears that they are in the throes of a split and selling the $60 million Beverly Hills mansion that they purchased. And he has recently also been seen driving away from her residence, which is implying that they are not living together because of how the paparazzi keeps catching them all over the place. Now, there also appears to be more writing on the wall because J.Lo canceled her first tour in 5 years. Never canceled. She's a very hard worker, and she canceled it and left this message for her fans on her website. I'm completely heartsick and devastated about letting you guys down. Please know that I wouldn't do this if I didn't feel that it was absolutely necessary. I promise I will make it up to you and we will all be together again. I love you all so much. Until next time. Now, here's what I want to say. The idea that you should be investing in celebrities and hoping for their happy endings, especially given what we understand about Hollywood, is something that you should probably stop doing. Right? Just stop doing that. Stop believing. I know everyone wants Taylor Swift to get her happy ending. There's something going on in Hollywood. It is demonic. And if you want to know how much somebody has given in to that demonism, you look no further than their children. Okay? J.Lo and Ben, both of their children, they are both raising 2 children that are trans or not non-binary, I suppose. I don't know what it is, but it's something that they've been proud of, right? And as soon as I saw J.Lo talking about that, I knew that she was a person who had been so removed from reality that she's no longer a person that is sound and a person that is whole and a person that does not live within the realms of reality. And I'm describing J.Lo here, is probably not going to be well suited to join a union with somebody who is similarly facing his own struggles. You know, I think Ben Affleck, and just definitely within his last marriage, which I think he should have stayed with Jennifer Garner, was open about the fact that he has been struggling with alcoholism. And this is something that is a demon, and it's a demon that people can get over. I've seen probably that demon be removed from people's life the most when they turn toward faith, when they turn toward God. You need to have a real pillar in your life. Fame is not a real pillar in your life. J.Lo has been famous for virtually her entire life, and I think that her day-to-day existence is something that is highly material. It lacks substance. And I would say for Ben Affleck, I probably hold out more of a candle for him. I think he probably lives closer to the realm of reality. But again, as I said, he's facing his own struggles. And what he needs is not another wife, which he wanted to go, oh, maybe this is what it was. No, he should have worked on his first marriage, and he should have sought the help that he needed for his alcoholism and the demons that allowed him to lean into that alcoholism, not another fast-paced relationship. And so I am sorry for them, but I think that these 2 individuals need to work on themselves and to work on their family and to work on their faith before you are ever going to see either of them actually achieve a happy ending. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Now let's jump into some of your comments regarding episodes past. By the way, I just want to say, a few of you guys had commented that one of the transitions was really bad for people who were epileptic. We are taking care of that. So we tried some softer transitions today. I'm always listening to your feedback. Let me know how those are. We are always reading the comments. We've got this comment from @Latte Letters and Life. I live in Austria. We have a huge immigrant problem. By now, 7 out of 10 kids in school do not speak German anymore because people emigrate and refuse to learn the language of the country they decided to live in. We are talking about people who have been here for years, unwilling to learn the language so they can be deemed unfit for work and get the state money to support. One of my best friends is an immigrant. We went to school together, so we know each other for 3 decades now. Her parents did everything to be a respected part of the community, and she too cannot understand why immigrants these days behave that way. But whenever someone in Austria says that we have an immigrant problem, we are labeled as Nazis. Oh, there we go. Drink every time there's a comparison to Nazis, guys. But I stand here welcoming everyone who is willing to participate in our society, learn the language, and work to support one's own life. I'm not here for people unwilling to do any of those. That does not make me a Nazi. It makes me someone unwilling to see my country turning into immigrant fodder, because everyone is terrified deporting the ones that after years have not learned the language, nor started to work and very likely accumulated criminal charges. I worked in law. I helped many great people to immigrate, but I also saw how terribly criminal people made it possible to stay in my country by claiming racism and anti-Semitism toward them. Well, it looks like what's happening in Austria is what is happening in America and is happening worldwide. Listen, there is evil that is pushing this. They are trying to pretend that what they're aspiring to is multiculturalism, and actually it's the exact opposite. They want to collapse your culture. They want you to have no sense of identity. They are trying to sell to people in school that having an identity is backwards and wrong and racist, and having a cohesive culture is backwards and wrong and racist, and it's anything but, right? It is anything but, and it is only going to end when people stand up and stop apologizing for having a sense of identity. It is utterly unacceptable that anybody would migrate to another country and say, I'm not going to try to adapt to this culture, but rather what I'm going to do is maintain my own. What that eventually leads to, of course, is you're going to have people that are warring. You're going to sense that tension, because what is not whole is not good. That is the truth. Things that become separated become bad. I learned this just in my Catholic understanding. You know, as I have been studying the Catholic faith and understanding the root word of the devil, and diavolo, it is a term that is used to describe separation. Separation in and of itself becomes an evil, whether you're talking about family, whether you're talking about faith, or whether you are talking about just the culture. It always leads to evil. Next comment is from Andrew. He writes, I was baptized Catholic as a child, became agnostic, atheist, and then went Catholic again. I went through a very dark and horrible time in my life, and then I went to traditional Latin Mass for 2 years. It gave me solace and hope. I love to hear that. I go to the Latin Mass every Sunday. I'm still learning. I'm trying to get my Latin down, but let me tell you something. When I went on that pilgrimage and I walked 65 miles in 3 days, and finally made it and saw the spires of the Chartres Cathedral in France, when the French people were lining up outside, and everyone, the French, the Americans, the Germans, everyone from all over the world, the Australians, the Spanish, were all chanting the Latin prayer. We're all chanting the Hail Mary in Latin. Chills. Now you understand why they don't want people going to the Latin Mass, because that is unity. That is one, that is holy, that is apostolic, and it is the reason why they seek to divide that. So congratulations to you. Last comment we have here from Vicarious. She writes, I'm overweight and it's pretty awful. I've been trying to work out daily and control what I eat. I believe I can get better. Seeing people fatter than me held up as icons is truly disturbing. It just enables complacency when we should be striving for greatness. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. That last sentence there is a quote that you have inserted, and yes, you are correct. Listen, right there, your mentality is correct. So you are going to be way better off than most people. Recognizing that you have a problem, as they say, is the first step. Wanting to get better is the second step, right? Being able to talk about it. And you can do it, by the way. I want you to know you absolutely can do it. It is you against your own mentality. As I said yesterday, start with a step challenge. Just do something very gentle and say, okay, I'm doing 7K steps. Now can I do 12K? Can I do 15K? Can I do 20K? And work it up every day. And then say, okay, now that I'm doing the steps, maybe what I'll do is I'll cut out carbs and I'll just eat paleo. I love paleo eating. I try to stick to that as much as I can. And you're going to see a difference. As I said, the first step is just your mentality, and you are already there. And so I'm wishing you luck on your journey. And to everyone else who's watching this, and none of us are perfect. We all get things wrong sometime. We all fall off the figurative horse. We just want to make sure that we get back on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how we get through these 30 minutes so fast. Again, what I am saying to you all is that is, in fact, me in the live chat. I love the live chat, gang. It gets me so excited as we hit those numbers every single day. Reminding you guys, if you want to support the show, you can head to locals.com and you become a monthly subscriber. Yes, we are independent, and I'm so happy to be independent because we said so much in this episode that if I wasn't independent, I would probably get fired again. Also, you guys know you can support by heading to clubcandace.com and find us and follow us on Spotify, on Apple, and of course, hitting the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.